The stage is yours.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it looks terrible, and if you have been here early, you saw it takes a lot of time to wire it up, and it seems like the Raspberry Pi doesn't work, so I had no chance to test it before, but I have one running at home, so we can use this one. Okay, so this is the official approved title, but this one is more the realistic title of this talk, because I'm working at Canoe, doing most of the times JavaFX stuff, HTML5 controls, and also swing controls if needed. I'm blogging at harmoniccode.org. I'm JAG leader in Germany, and I'm the co-lead of the JavaFX community at Oracle, together with James Weaver, so that's the reason why it's a lot about JavaFX. So does somebody use JavaFX? Somebody knows JavaFX? Okay, that's something. Okay. First of all, what embedded is, it really depends on the point of view. That's what I learned when I gave a part of this talk at a local JAG. Because if you ask a hardware developer, then this is some kind of embedded, right? But if you ask a standard Java developer, then this is some embedded, and that's not the same. So it could be, but it's not really. So I don't know if Terence is still here. No, not. He's more talking about the small things. You know, how many of you are Java developers? That's good. How many of you are embedded developers? Okay, a few. So this is not made for embedded developers, right? Because these guys are crazy, and I'm not. I'm a software desktop Java guy, so one of the rare ones. And yeah, I found my love for this stuff last year at Java 1 2012. Anybody has been at Java 1? A few. Okay, so you saw this stuff, maybe. And when I saw that, it's a JavaFX powered kiosk. And they presented that on stage. And it was running on a board called Panda board. So this is an embedded board which has an ARM A9 CPU, 1.2 gigahertz. It's a dual core processor, has 1 gigabyte of RAM and a PowerVR GPU. So it's quite powerful. And the first thing, when I saw that, I asked myself, so why Java, right, on this stuff? It doesn't make sense. And at this point, I didn't know that Java embedded is there for a long time. I never took a look at it. So Java really makes sense. And if you joined the keynote this morning, then you learned that it has a superb developer toolchain, right, because you have all the tools available. Then you have widespread, mature, fast, the JVM. Then we have thousands of libraries already there, and a huge community, and at least there is no real standard for embedded right now. So everything's running on C and assembler. So there is really, it's a good reason. But then I saw JavaFX. What the fuck? JavaFX on an embedded device, does it really make sense, right? That's the first thing that came to my mind. And then they explained the use cases, and that was home automation. Okay, that makes sense. Home entertainment, like some media players or whatever, or medical devices, or we have information kiosks like the one they show at Java 1, or education, where the Raspberry Pi was originally built for, right? And this is, I think for me, education is the most important part. Bringing kids to the computer, nothing is better than using a Raspberry Pi. But I really don't want to give my MacBook Pro to my kids. It's really just, be careful, don't touch this. No, don't do it. With a Raspberry Pi, I don't care. So, but what is JavaFX embedded? It's a subset of JavaFX, which does not have all the capabilities. That means we don't have swing on that stuff, and we don't need it. We don't have a system menu. Doesn't make sense. If you take a look at this thing there, it's a BeagleBoard. I came to that later, and they have a touch screen, so I don't need a system menu, right? So drag and drop. Okay, agree. And a web view, because just a few of you know JavaFX, it has a web view which is similar to the Android or iOS web view, so you have a native container where you can load in a website. This is unfortunately not available on JavaFX for embedded, but who knows, maybe in the future. So, and which JDKs are available, or SDKs? It's a JDK 7 running JavaFX 2, and we have on the Raspberry Pi, we have JDK 8 running JavaFX 8. So, and the target footprint is, it should be in the future about 16 megabytes. And if I'm right, it's around 32 at the moment. So they have to do some work to shrink it, but Oracle is working on that, I'm pretty sure. And the supported platforms at the moment are the BeagleBoard XM and the Raspberry Pi. So who has a Raspberry Pi here from the audience? Okay, who has a BeagleBoard? Nobody. So that's the BeagleBoard. And to be honest, I just bought it because I was at Java 1. They showed that kiosk. I saw it and I was totally into it. And then I asked, okay, I would like to have it. And then they say, oh, it's a Panda board. But if you would like to do embedded with JavaFX, you have to use the BeagleBoard. So, okay, so I ordered the BeagleBoard directly during Java 1. And it arrived a week after I was home again. And then they also told me, you have to order this LCD screen because that's the only one that works really with a BeagleBoard and JavaFX. So, okay, I ordered the one. And at that point, there was no support for the Raspberry Pi. So that's the reason why I started with the BeagleBoard and then came to the Raspberry Pi. And on the BeagleBoard, it's an ARM A8 that is comparable to the iPad 1 from the power of the CPU. It has 512 megs of RAM, 4 USB ports, it has an Ethernet connection, and it's HDMI, and also I2C, JTAG, SPI, and it has also audio in and out. But there was no place on the slide, so. It's running on Angstrom Linux, which is, for me, terrible. It's not as easy as, for example, on the Pi, you have the Raspbian, and setting up the Pi it's so easy. Setting up this thing took me 3 weeks to get it running, finally, because it's not that widespread, so it was really hard to do that. Now I know, but at that time it was terrible. And it's running JDK 7 with the JavaFX 2. So I mention always JavaFX 2 or JavaFX because it's bundled with the JDK. I think you know that, right? Who's working on JDK 7 already on the desktop? Okay. So then from update 6, you have JavaFX already in there. So it comes with the JDK. And with the JDK 7 for embedded, for the BeagleBoard, you get JavaFX 2 with soft float support only, so no hard float there. Hard float, soft float, everybody knows what that is, right? No, okay. So it's if you have soft float, that means you emulate the calculation of floating point operations in software, and if you use hard float, then it supports the hardware capabilities of the board to calculate floating points. So that means hard float should be faster than soft float. And the Java JDK 7 for the BeagleBoard is soft float only at the moment. And then we have the Raspberry Pi. Most of you have one. Who has multiple Raspberry Pis? Connected somehow, or okay? Yeah, but because that's really fun. And the Raspberry Pi is, most of you know that, it's running on an ARM v6 architecture with 700 megahertz. It has 512 megs of RAM, the new version. The older one has 256. 2 USB ports, Ethernet, HDMI, and composite video, and we have GPIO, I2C, UART, and SPI, and also audio out. The bad thing about the Raspberry Pi is if you connect something to the USB port, you really need an external powered hub. That's the first thing you have to do. So many of you have Raspberry Pis. Also did something with it, or just have it? Because I had my first one last year in March, and it was lying around there, and I thought, oh, someday I will do something, but I never did. So that's the reason why I'm asking. If you start with it, make sure you have an external USB hub which is powered, otherwise you will get into trouble. I tried a lot of things, and finally I figured out, without the hub, no chance. And for the BeagleBoard, it's the same, because I lost touch information all the time. And I was in close contact to Oracle, to the guys who did this, and they say, yeah, but it should work. It works at our office. And I say, yeah, but it doesn't. So do you have a powered USB hub? No. Connect one. I connected. Everything was fine. Took me weeks to figure that out. So if you do something, use a powered USB hub. Very important. And the Raspberry Pi is running on Raspbian, so I use it on Raspbian. You don't have to, but if you would like to use Java on it, you should use the Raspbian. And this one, therefore, for the Raspberry Pi, you get an early dev JDK 8 preview with hard float support and JavaFX 8. And that sounds great. And because I'm doing a lot of controls development, the first thing was, okay, I create some controls for the Raspberry Pi, right? Unfortunately, it's not the same level of SDK, so of JDK. It's a JDK 8, but it's not the same version as the desktop version. So you create something on your desktop, it works. You push it to the Pi, it doesn't. So you have to extract JavaFX stuff from the Pi version, put it on the desktop, compile it, put it back on the Pi, then it works. So it's a little bit tricky at the moment. So having Java on these kind of devices means write once, run anywhere, right? Perfect. But first, let's have a look. If I compare the BeagleBoard, for example, to this MacBook Pro, then I compare a quad-core CPU from Intel versus one single-core 1 gigahertz CPU and 16 gigs of RAM versus 512 megs, and then the GeForce GT 650M, which is the GPU in this MacBook Pro, compared to the Power VR, which is running on the BeagleBoard. Okay, CPU, no problem, but GPU? Has anybody a clue what it means, the Power VR versus the NVIDIA stuff? I can show you. That means 384 cores on the MacBook Pro versus 1 core on the BeagleBoard. So this is really a difference. And if you are in graphics programming, and I am, so first I was not aware of that. And I started coding and create very fancy controls, put it on the BeagleBoard, started, and nothing happens at all. So it renders something, and then it was like, oh, what's that? Okay, so I started again, and you really have to think about coding. It's a totally different approach. And if you take a look at the embedded requirements, they are totally different. So you need a touchable user interface. On the desktop, I don't care. And you need reasonable controls, which means I don't want to use a spinner that I can use on a desktop with a mouse. I can't use it on my BeagleBoard with a touch, right? You need different controls there. So no mouse and no keyboard usually, and we have really restricted screen estate. We don't have 30-inch screen or something like that. Usually we have something small. That means the conclusion is no, write once, run anywhere. But you really can reuse or recycle a lot of code. That means what you usually do is you create, if you separate the logic from the UI, you can really create a UI for the embedded stuff, and then just use that for the embedded, and for the desktop you have another UI based on the same logic. And you can learn from mobile. Right? So who of you is a mobile developer? Some. So you know that problems. It's very similar, but I think the mobile phones are more powerful than a Raspberry Pi. So, okay, but it's in principle the same problem. You need a different UI, so you can't really use the same stuff. But what you can do, and that's really the biggest advantage of all, you can develop your complete code on your desktop machine. You can test it there, and if it's running, you take the jar, put it on the BeagleBoard or on the Pi, and it works. And that's awesome, because you can use your whatever you use. What is the IDE? Who uses IntelliJ? NetBeans? And the rest is Eclipse? Ah, okay. So yeah, I'm not an Eclipse guy, so, but I have always to ask. Okay, so and this was just the introduction, the boring part. So when I was at Java 1, I met a guy who's living in Canada, and he's living on a farm. And we are on the way to the appreciation event. That's something Oracle did there. And we are discussing how to use the embedded stuff somehow. And he told me it would be so awesome if you could create something that I can monitor my animals in my barn, because now I have to go there, check the temperature manually. Oh, it's too cold, I have to power up the heater, and then it's okay. And then I go back 2 hours later, oh, it's too warm, and put it back. And he said, it's not really, I can buy something, but it's really expensive. So maybe it would be great to use this stuff. And that's the reason why I created all these things, because we would like to do some temperature monitoring. Right? That sounds really simple, and the use case itself, it is really simple, and that's not the question here. The question was, can we do it using mostly Java for the coding, JavaFX for the visualization, and using the Raspberry Pi and the BeagleBoard. So we had some requirements there. It was we have to measure the temperature in the barn, and then we would like to monitor it on site. That means if you go to the barn, you would like to see it from the outside and do something. You would like to monitor it on the desktop application if you are in the office, and on mobile, of course. If you are somewhere and you would like to check it, it should be possible to do that. And in addition, we would like to have feedback on site. That's the reason for this thing. That should be put outside at the barn, that you can see if you look outside the window, oh, temperature is fine or temperature is not fine. And feedback on the desktop, so that means we need something, visual, audio, I don't know. And no platform dependency. That's Java, right? We would like to use Java. And then one important thing was, I don't want to solder something. Not that I don't like it, but I have another project running with a Raspberry Pi using it as a temperature monitor for a server room. And the Pi will measure the temperature and also measure the voltage of the power outlets to detect if there are some problems. And with these guys, they told me, yes, you can do that, we can do that project, but do you have to build it by yourself? And I said, no, it's just industrial sensors. I buy them, plug them in the Pi, and then they will measure. And if the Pi breaks down, buy another one. Take out the SD card, put it in the new one, start it again. You are fine. Right? So that's the reason why I don't want to solder something. I would like to buy something on the store, plug it in, and run it. And as far as I know, most of the Java developers are not hardware developers. So and it's really nice if you see guys connecting a Raspberry Pi to a coffee machine. Great, yeah, it's fun. But would you like to sell that to somebody? Not really. It's just a fun project, right? We are thinking about, okay, if you would like to do something with that, you have to use reusable components that you can buy somewhere and plug it in. That's the reason for the no solder. So in the hardware we use for that would be the Raspberry Pi for temperature measurement, and the BeagleBoard with the LCD, that should be the on-site monitoring. That's the tool which is over there. Okay, the Raspberry Pi for temperature measurement. Right? Isn't that a little bit overkill? Because that was a question. A guy, last time I gave the talk, he came to me and said, yeah, but I can do that with some tiny stuff. It costs €1 or €2. I say, yes, of course you can, but you know, the Pi is cheap. And for a company of whoever, it's easier to use that one and buy a second one if it breaks down, instead of buying these tiny chips and solder something together and then it works, okay, fine or not, I don't know. So that's one of the reasons. And the other reason, I will come to that later, is that it's so flexible. You can do a lot of things with it. So that's the setup running in my office at home. It's just the Pi. I have this serial to a USB converter, and this is an industrial serial sensor. It costs €15, something like that. So that means what I need for the setup is a Raspberry Pi. I need a case for the Pi, the power supply, serial to USB converter, the sensor, and a network connection. And that's $100. And that's cheap. If you compare it to really solutions that you have to buy somewhere, I checked it, you find something about €120, 150. It's close, but then you are bound to this company, to their product, and it's not so easy to do your own stuff. So with this, I'm totally flexible. I can use Java, can do whatever I would like. So for the BeagleBoard, this is, if you have time later on, you can have a look at it. That's what it looks like. This is JavaFX running the UI. I choose a little bit this Metro style because it makes sense on these devices. It has a touch screen. So you can touch on this thing, and then it will show you the weather conditions at the location. You have a clock, you can switch between Celsius and Fahrenheit and something like that. You have a threshold, and then here you have a gauge. And therefore, we need the BeagleBoard and the LCD touchscreen, and then a case, of course, power supply, USB relay board, and then I use this signal tower. This is one that I had already because I worked for 10 years in the semiconductor industry, and yeah, at some point I got that and it was lying around, and so I thought, okay, might make sense to use this for indication. But here you see this is around 350 bucks. It's a little bit more expensive, and this is excluded the signal tower. This alone costs 350 bucks. So it's some design signal tower, I don't know. It's so you don't need this, right? But it looks good. So on the desktop, of course, that's easy. We just use some operating system that is capable of running Java. We use a Java virtual machine with JavaFX support. That means bigger than JDK 7 update 6, and a network connection. And on mobile, something that runs iOS, Android, BlackBerry, I don't know, and a HTML5 capable browser. That was important. Who's doing HTML5 canvas stuff here? Okay. Custom controls in that? Or just drawing something? No answer. Okay. So the software. So for the Raspberry Pi, I told you already, it's Java 8. For the BeagleBoard, it's Java 7. On the desktop client, it's Java 7. And on the mobile client, it's HTML5. Now you can argue and say, why don't you use HTML5 only? You can also use it on the desktop, of course. But for me, it's much easier to code in Java than in HTML5. I can do that. And Stefan showed a really nice Parlays demo at the last Devox conference in Belgium. It was awesome. And there you can really see what's possible, but I can't do that, so I stick to Java, and that's the reason why I choose Java over HTML5 and use HTML5 only for the mobile client. So now that's the interesting part. What about communication? How do I manage to get the information from my Pi at home, for example, here to the BeagleBoard in this room? So what I use is XMPP. So does anybody know XMPP or Java? Oh, that's just a few. But you know all these chat clients, right? Who has a chat client? Okay, most of this stuff is running on that. Google Talk, for example, is running on XMPP, or Wave, Google Wave was running on XMPP. So it's a XML-based protocol which is extensible and has support for presence and messaging. And there is a really nice library from Ignite Realtime, it's called SMAC, and they have also a messenger. And for the mobile version, for the HTML5 stuff, I use a Bosch server, which is this bidirectional streams over HTTP. And with this, with XMPP, you can do something like that. So I have the Java embedded Raspberry Pi stuff running here, and every 10 seconds, it sends a message out to these clients. That's the BeagleBoard, my desktop app, and the mobile app. And then the XMPP server just spreads the messages. And because it's event-based, it's very easy to handle. And I'm no server guy. I can't set up whatever, a Tomcat or a Glassfish or something like that, and I don't want to. I just would like to use something that is there. That was my approach to do that. And it has really interesting features that you can use. I can show it to you. So first of all, it's free. That means you will find a free Java server or XMPP server where you can create an account and use it, and that's what I did. I created accounts at the Chaos Computer Club stuff in Berlin, and have 3 accounts there. It's widely used because most of the chat lines using that protocol. It's extensible, and it has this presence stuff, and that's really interesting because what you can do, you can use one account. For example, I have an account which is named Raspberry Pi. And the Raspberry Pi is running at home, so the resource where it's running is named at home. And the other Pi, it's this one, which unfortunately doesn't work. It has the same account, but it has another resource, which is on tour. So both can be logged in, and I can send messages to both of them, and I can also receive messages from both of them, even if they have the same account. That means you just need one account and you can use it on multiple devices. That's really great. And you have the support for presence. That means as soon as I plug in that thing and it connects to the internet, it will log into the server, and then my application will recognize, oh, it's there. There's another Pi. And then I can use it. And that's really great. And if it's gone, the application will just recognize, oh, the Pi is gone. right? So this is a big advantage. Then it's fast. I make in a local network, I had round trips of 7 milliseconds, which is really, that's quick. And it's mature. It's not a new protocol. It's quite old in terms of IT time. So in the Raspberry Pi application, what I use there, it should measure the temperature, right? This is simple. And it should distribute the stuff via XMPP. So it's running on JDK8, using JavaFX 8. Wait, JavaFX on a headless system doesn't make sense? On this system there, it's running JavaFX, but there's no display. So what I do is the following. In JavaFX, we have something called properties. Someone of you know that stuff already? A few. Oh, that's really interesting because you can use it not only for JavaFX stuff. You have properties, and with these properties, we get binding. And that's what I use. So that means I have a sensor class running on that Pi. It has this property named read-only double property. So it's Celsius property here. And then I have a buffered reader, which reads in the value from the serial port. And then it just sets this property, this Celsius property. And then my XMPP class has a simple change listener that you can, of course, do that with the property change listener. This is in principle the same, but it's much easier. You don't have to do much more than this. I just say sensor class, Celsius property, add listener, and then every time it changes, it sends out the message with a new value. So in principle, it's the same as a property change listener in Java, but now you don't have to write all that boilerplate, right? This is really all code you need to do that, which makes it really simple. And that's the reason why I use JavaFX on that device, even without a display. And XMPP, the advantage of this protocol is, for example, this one. You can extend it by setting, you create a message here, and in each message, I just create a property with the ID, Celsius, and I gave it a Celsius value, and so on. And that means every time the Pi is sending a message to my other clients, it will get this information too. And you can assume that if you can set it, you can also get it. That's exactly the same. I say get property pressure, and then I will get the pressure value. And that makes it really powerful and easy to use. And for me, it's the perfect protocol for you to use with sensors, because it just, if I would like to add another value, it's just one line of code, and it's there. And on the other side, I can just get it from there. So it's very easy. But wait, I said it's a chat protocol, right? So why not chat directly with the Pi? And again, this is very easy because I have a packet listener. That means a listener is running on that Pi in Java, listening for incoming packets. And if this packet is a message, then I can check what is in the body of the message. And that's what I do here. I just check if there's a question like location question mark. And if this is the case, then it will just call a method and send out the location back to my client. And that makes it possible to really chat with the Raspberry Pi. I can just send out messages, and then they are hard-coded, of course, but it's really powerful. And this is the answer then, right? So it's current temperature, and then it sends out the Celsius and the Fahrenheit. So this is, for example, a screenshot, right? So I just set temp, and I get the answer from Raspberry Pi number 1 and number 2. So this is what is possible with the standard chat client. You see it here on the iPhone. This is the Spark client running on my desktop. I can use it also from Android, whatever. So it's a standard chat. You use your chat client and chat with this thing. No problem. And you don't need to have an account at the same server. So that means I can use my Google account, chatting with this stuff running on the, Chaos Computer Club stuff. That's no problem, as long as these XMPP servers sharing their connections. But usually that's the case. So on the BeagleBoard, I tell it already it's running on JDK7, JavaFX 2. It visualizes the temperature. That's when you go to the barn, you would like to see, oh, it's that and that degree. And it indicates the status by using this signal tower here. And when I started that, I told you I started with the controls like this. This is a JavaFX control I created. And I thought, oh, that's nice, should work. And then I learned, no, it doesn't. Then I used this one, much simpler, does the same job. But yeah, like I said, it's really simple. And last weekend, I thought, okay, it's too simple. It looks so stupid. And I created this one. This is much easier. And What it is all about, it's content over Chrome. That's something Microsoft stated with the Metro design, and that's exactly what it is. You really have to think about do you need some shiny, fancy thing with animation and all that stuff on such a device? Or is it enough to have just the data and something that indicates the value? That should be enough. So the other reason is if you compare it graphically, so JavaFX is running on a scene graph, and you have nodes in that scene graph. Many nodes, slow, few nodes, fast. Simple rule. This one, 245 nodes, this one, 3 nodes. And that's really a difference. And my compromise has 33, which is okay. It works, right? It could be better, but it's okay. So this is really something you have to keep in mind. That's different on the mobile devices. I think on a mobile device like the iPhone, you have this animation, core animation or something like that, where they use hardware in the background, which is more powerful than the hardware in this one. It also tries to use the hardware, or it uses the hardware acceleration, but I show you it's slow. It's just one core, not very powerful. And the Pi, even if it is at lower CPU frequency running, it's faster than the BeagleBoard. So that's interesting. So this is the app that is running on that stuff here. So we have the gauge, we have this bar graph, a line graph, which is showing the temperature. And this is now, for example, a screenshot that I take from my desktop app. That means I can run it here on the desktop and it works. And then I take the jar, put it on this device there, and it works too. And that's the big advantage of using JavaFX and Java on these devices, because it's really easy to develop. You can do the complete development on the desktop and then put the jar on the machine and run it. The desktop application, running on Java 7, JavaFX 2, it should just visualize the temperature, and I need it in Java, and I need a feedback. So cross-platform, benefits of JavaFX, of course, it's available on Linux, Mac, and on Windows. It has good graphic support and good audio support, so that's also the reason why I choose it over HTML5, and it's very easy to implement if you have a Java developer. You don't have to learn the HTML5 stuff and find out how to do that on all that browsers and all that thing. So this works. And that's what it looks like. So it has a custom control. This is the LCD. And you maybe know this one. It's a control. I created it by myself. It looks like that, showing the same state that is outside on the barn. It has also the bar graph. I can define a threshold, I can activate some audio stuff, I can use this to show me the location, I can show it to you, and here I can choose between the different Pis. Because it has this presence in XMPP, as soon as another Pi will log onto the server, I will have it available here. Because I get the message, okay, next Pi, I can choose it. So it's very, very easy to handle. And the HTML5 stuff, running on HTML5 using Canvas, should just monitor the temperature. That was the idea. Nothing special, just show it, that's all. So we use pure JavaScript, and using my library, I created a library for these gauges. And high charts, this is also a very nice library for the graph, it's down here. And you see it's running on an iPhone in this case, or on an Android Nexus 7 here, or I tried it also on my Wii U controller, and it works also on the Wii U, so which was really fun. I also tried it on the Nintendo DS. That was not so good, but it rendered something, so it was okay. And at the end, just for the fun of it, I also created a Google Earth client. So this is because my wife has no idea about computers, and she knows Google Earth, and she said, yeah, what are you doing there? And I said, yeah, I create this and that, and look at the sensors. And she said, yeah, but that's stupid. Can't I see it in Google Earth? I said, yeah, it should be possible. So now I have a Google Earth client too, so it's just a KML file. You see Pi number 1, Pi number 2, and it also changes the color here and shows me the current temperature. So in fact, this is just creating a KML file and updating it with each message, and then so you get real-time updates from the Pi in Google Earth, which was fun. So conclusion, JavaFX and Java on embedded really rocks. So if you didn't try it now, you should do it. It's really nice. You can create nothing like a it's more not a RIA, it's more a RIA. It's a rich embedded application because you have the capabilities of graphical stuff that is available on the desktop, also on the embedded device. You just have to take care about animations and effects on that thing. But graphically, you can really create easy, nice, good-looking UIs. And I have some minutes left for the demo. That's great, because that's the fun part. So, first of all, let's have a chat. Let's see if the other Pi is online. I don't think so. Okay, here we go. You see the BeagleBoard is online. The Pi is online. Start the chat. Give me the temperature. What's the temperature? Yeah, it's only one Pi online. I don't know, it's damaged. Usually I would also see the one, you saw it on the screenshot. So I can ask him for the temperature. Okay, now at home in my office it's 7.4 degrees Celsius. So give me your location. Okay, he knows its location from the IP address. So I can do things like, what is the daily min temperature? Oh, today it was 71. And things like that, right? I integrated some things, for example, history. Show me the history. These are the values from the last hour. So, and that's what I think is the most powerful thing about XMPP, right? So you can directly chat with your devices. And what I just started to implement is a remote update. So I use my Dropbox, put a new jar file there, implement a command named update. So the Pi knows, oh, now I have to download the file from the Dropbox, downloads the file, next command, reboot. So it reboots itself, a bash script will just exchange the jar file, and then it starts a new jar. So I can also remote update my Pi without being there, which is really nice. So then the other one is this one. Okay, here we go. That's the JavaFX application, showing the same things. Yep, here we go. So here you see the location. That's where I live, not directly because that's the IP from the provider, so it's not the location where I'm living, but the location from the IP provider. So you see I also can use a web view. That's the web view that I was talking about in the beginning. It's Google Maps just showing in a web view here. Then it shows here usually also the second Pi, which is unfortunately not available. And as you can see, it shows the temperature in the same way as this signal tower. And unfortunately, this doesn't work because then I can show you if I grab it and it gets warm, then the temperature rises or falls or whatever. So that's this one. Now let me show you just a second. Just have to take out my iPad to show you the mobile stuff. I can also use it on the browser here. Let me see. Here we go. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see that. Wait, rotate it. It takes some time until it gets the first thing. But you see, it works. Here it also works, but it's the problem with the network. I think I don't have a good network connection here. But you see, I have the gauge here with the graph down there. Now we have a connection. So we have the graph here. I have the value, the same as this one. So I can use it on my mobile or whatever. So I can really, if I have a second Pi, it will appear at the right side. And I have a second line in the graph. So you really can do nice things with XMPP in combination with Java and the embedded devices. So, and that's what my talk was all about. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yes, yes. To the Google server, you mean? If I use my Google account to... Yeah. Oh, this is done by the chat server itself. I don't have to take care about that. So that means because the Google Talk stuff is based on XMPP, and if you use the SMAC library, you just have to log in with this Google account, and then you can directly chat with it. You can just use it. It's that there's nothing to do. So. Exactly. So this is really, because I told you, I have no server at home. I'm a desktop guy only. So that was my main thing. I don't want to have some server hardware standing there that I have to maintenance. I just use standard stuff. This is free XMPP accounts that I use. You can use it wherever. I don't know, jabba.org, for example. I think you can also create accounts there. I use free accounts at CCC in Berlin. It's the jabba.ccc.org. I use it for chat, and I use the same accounts here. Yeah. Other questions? Yes?
Do you want to plug that in?
Do you want to plug one in to see if it can pop up?
Sorry, I didn't get it.
Do you want to plug in a second Raspberry to see if it pops up?
Oh, we can do that, yes. It should work. Let us check. We have some time. Otherwise, because if there are no questions, you can go here and then take a look at the BeagleBoard stuff, because I'm finished anyway. So.
Any more questions?
Oh, that's very, very stupid, because I used the industrial sensor, which is, like I said, 15 euros. And this sensor it's really smart, because it measures the temperature and just sends out on the RS-232 port every 10 seconds the value as a string. Yes, that's very easy. I was searching for the easiest solution to do that, and it should be cheap. This, I also have other hardware connected to it. It's this one. It's from Yoctopuse. Really nice, because they have, it's much better than the serial port one. It's a USB. They are running a server software on that Pi, which is also working on a desktop, whatever. And they have, you just code against their server, which is very easy. They have a port and they have their own library. You just use it, and you can access these sensors via Java, which is very easy. It's a little bit more expensive. This sensor, for example, it's around 50 euros, but it has temperature, humidity, and pressure. So they have also actuators. I use a power LED, for example, to get rid of this signal tower. It's too big. So this is, yeah. But there's nothing special about that. Because I use RxTX for the serial thing at home, and because it's cheap and it's there. I don't want to plug something special in my Pi. It should be just basic. Anything else? Okay.
Thank you.